Hi, so if you're watching this, this is probably my very first YouTube upload, and I just feel led to be very vulnerable and give you the testimony about how I moved from Pennsylvania, my home state, to Dallas, Texas, just a few months ago. It is now 2024, and I don't know when you're watching this, but I just moved to Dallas in June of 2024. So let's just rewind back to the end of 2022. So I am going to give a little bit of background, but I'm trying not to be super long-winded with this. All right. So at the end of 2022, I was in a I was experiencing a lot of financial hardship. I had just moved back to Pennsylvania from DC, and I only left DC because I literally couldn't pay my rent. It's a whole so if you want to know the background on that, then I'll release the longer video. But just know that, financially I was going through it. I was also just emotionally going through it because me leaving DC represented me like leaving my medical career behind. And so that's another whole testimony in itself. But so at the end of 2022, I joined 40 days of prayer and fasting led by prophetess Raven Hoquette. And everything after that was like super life-changing. Okay. So prior to joining this fast, I had never really fasted before. Like I might have done it a handful of times growing up. I grew up Christian, but I grew up knowing God, but not really like living it out fully, if that makes sense. So fasting was a whole new experience for me. I didn't really understand the power of fasting. I didn't really understand the discipline of it and how, you really are supposed to use it to get in communion with God, get clarity from God, download messages from God, tune out all the distractions, all the things. I just was not familiar with fasting. So, all right. So then me joining 40 Days of Prayer ended up or turned into me joining our community, Increase 365. We're a group of women. We pray for each other. We fast together. We're just really all being very intentional about our journey with Christ. And walking in righteousness and just doing all the things like that come along with that. So 4 days of prayer led to me joining Increase 365. Me joining Increase 365 and turned into me attending the Supernaturally Paid conference. So now we're in summer of 2023. So specifically June 28th, 2023. I'm into the date because it's important. Okay, so during that conference, well, let me back up for a little bit. So the Supernaturally Paid conference was here in Dallas, Texas. And prior to that conference, I had never been to Texas. And I mentioned I think I mentioned I'm from Philly, so I'm very much an East Coast girl. And, Texas to me was a place where they country down there. They got guns, they racist. That's really all I knew about Texas. So I had zero interest in moving to Dallas. I had every intention of leaving Pennsylvania and going back to DC because I had fell in love with DC. I was calling DC like my second hometown. Like I had been there for 8 years. I had zero intention or interest in moving to Dallas. But leading up to me coming to the conference in Dallas, the Holy Spirit was just dropping hints here and there, right? So what do I mean by that? So on TikTok, at the time on TikTok, there was like this trend of like Black girls in luxury. And so like I had curated my feed to be just a bunch of that, right? So not just Black girls in luxury, but just Black girls in general, just living their best life. And so I would just notice that like there were girls posting about, their comings and goings in Texas, right? Of all places. And so, so then I would just watch girls like going shopping, going out to eat, going to get their nails done, just having a good old funky time in Texas, right? And so like I was just like, in my I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. Like I just didn't know like that you could just live a good life in Dallas, Texas. I just never had considered it before. So I wasn't thinking too much of it. I was just kind of taking notice like, okay, there's a lot of girls like posting about their life in Dallas and it looked really cute. So then once I started realizing there were a lot of girls posting about their life in Texas, like some were Dallas and then others were Houston, but I just started kind of like noticing, like, wait a minute, a lot of people I follow that have been following for years on social media either live in Dallas, Texas, or just moved to Dallas, Texas recently. There was so I'm on the plane on my way to Dallas, and I'm just thinking to myself, okay, like let's just see how Dallas really is. Like, let's just give it a real chance, and let's see, like, they might have some cute guys down there. Let's just see. That's my mindset. And so I go to Dallas for the very first time for the Supernaturally Paid conference, and it's amazing. So the conference is 2 days long, and also I had took some extra days off of work, so I was really in Dallas for like 4 days, and so I just had like extra time to explore. And where I was staying, like, was beautiful. I was just experiencing a lot of just supernatural favor, like, as soon as I touched down. Like, so like the hotel I was staying at was, I forget the name of it, but it was a really nice hotel. And it had like a full gym on site and everything like that. It was a campus for you to like walk around. There was like a little like park area where there's like ducks, moving around. It was just really cute. So that was cute. In Philly, in the Northeast, like in a lot of places where you travel, you have to put your card down for incidentals when you check in, obviously. And so the incidental hold for my card was like $1. I had never $1. So yeah. So I'm like, ooh, favor. And I do remember also, leading up to the conference, I didn't have like a lot of funds. And so again, favor. So there was that. And also I just happened to stay in an area that was close to the event. Obviously that makes sense, but also I was close to like Whole Foods and Trader Joe's, and just there was a lot of shopping stuff nearby for me to walk to. And although it was like 100 degrees, I would wait until like it was like a little later in the day, or I would just go out early in the morning and like go for like a smoothie. And so I just remember I was in the parking lot, leaving the smoothie place and walking across the parking lot to go to Whole Foods. And then like this like lady just stopped me and complimented me. I'm like, these people are so nice. This would never happen in Philly, like never. So like stuff like that was happening. And so the conference comes, and on the last day we are, Raven is, speaking to us prophetically. So at the time that was very new for me. I grew up Christian. I was, and I wasn't going to church all the time, but even when I went to church, I had just never like heard of someone being a prophet, and I didn't even know what that meant. So if you don't know what that means, then a prophet is someone who hears from God super clearly. He wants to get messages to his children through prophets, right? And yes, he can give us messages directly, but prophets, they hear from God very clearly. A lot of them get visions, dreams. They hear from God audibly. God speaks to all of us, right? We just have to be, trained to listen. But for prophets, they hear from him very clearly. So anyway, so on the very last day of the conference, that was the prophetic portion of the conference. And so everyone's going like one by one. Me, I'm shook. I just didn't know what to expect. I thought I was gonna get rebuked. Like, I just didn't know. So it's my turn, and I go, and I'm just gonna share a portion of that. All right, so we're sitting down, it's my turn to go for the prophetic portion of the conference. So I'm sitting with Raven, and Raven's like, you've been thinking about moving. And I'm like, I mean, like, yeah, but like, just kind of like hypothetically, for some time in the future, like, not like, I didn't put a deadline or a time frame on it. And she's like, okay, well, you need to move, and like, and she was just, I said, well, I had been planning on leaving and going back to DC at some point. And she was like, no, I see you moving way further south than DC. And I'm like, South. I'm not moving to the South. Like, I didn't say that, but I was just thinking like, what? And so she was just like, God will reveal to you the city before the end of the conference. And she said, this is one of those moves where you have to keep it to yourself. You can't tell anybody until like a week before you go. It was very clear. I was shocked. So once I figured out that it was, once, you know, God put Dallas on my spirit, I was just like, okay, I'm moving to Dallas. Like, at the time, it wasn't, I was excited, but also kind of like, what just happened? Like, I just, you know, so me and some of the girls planned on going to get some food after the conference because we had been fasting for the whole conference. So, so we went to get food, and I'm asking them questions because a lot of the people at the conference were like local to Dallas. And so I'm asking them, I'm like, okay, like, since I'm moving here and everything, like, what do you guys think? What area should I be looking at? And they're like, you're right here. Like, you're where your hotel is. That's like the perfect area. I'm just like, this is all divinely orchestrated. And so one of the other things that Raven said to me was, you know, it's not a coincidence that you are staying here an extra day. Like, you need to be using that day to look at places and look into like where you're going to live. And I was just like, so although I got this wonderful news that I was going to be moving to Dallas, my spirit was grieved. And I was just very unsure because, again, if I'm going to pick up my life and move to a whole nother state that's halfway across the country, right, I need to be sure, right? I need to be very, like, 100%, not 98, not 99, not 99.9, 100%, right? So, you know, one of the things that really made me sad was that, like, I just didn't, I knew that my mom specifically would take it hard. I knew my mom would take it hard because I was used to being the reliable daughter, if that makes sense, right? So that was like, I was very upset about that. To be honest with you, at first I was crying. I just felt so guilty, you know? And so, you know, I had cried myself to sleep that night. And then the next day, I'm getting up to go to a mall. And I'm like, all right, I'm getting dressed. And I'm watching YouTube videos kind of like as I'm putting my makeup on. So I'm asking God, I'm like, God, like, are you sure? Like, you don't mean like, what about Houston? What about Atlanta? I'm like Googling cities like where the successful Black entrepreneurs are. I'm like, are you sure you don't mean Atlanta? Like, why Dallas? Why not Houston? Like, why are you like, why Dallas? So I'm like questioning God. And then also I'm just like, okay, like if it's Dallas, I'll go, of course. But I need to be sure. Like, I need you to give me a confirmation. Like, I need for it to be clear that it's Dallas and not anywhere else in Texas. So, so then Holy Spirit popped the thought into my mind. And I remembered that I had a YouTube video that was saved to my watch later. So, and this is a video that I saved probably maybe like, I don't know, maybe a week or so before. It was a prophetic channel, so another prophetess, and all I remember was that it was about a God move. Like, God told me to move to XYZ. And I remember looking at the thumbnail and thinking, oh, this is interesting. Like, I'll watch this like later, whatever. And so I saved it. And then in that moment, or like maybe 5 minutes after I asked God to give me a confirmation, I remember like, oh wait, let me watch that video and maybe she can like, you know, maybe I can resonate. Maybe what she's saying on a video can resonate with me because I'm going through the same thing, right? So then I pull up my watch later list, and on the thumbnail is the woman's face and then a picture of Texas next to her. I'm just like, so then, I'm like jumping up and down, and so I watched the video, and she's talking about Dallas, Texas, y'all. I love when I ask God a question, he answers me in like less than 5 minutes. I was so excited. Okay. So that was like my first confirmation. It was a huge confirmation, but there are so many others that I got after that. Like when I tell you, I needed the confirmations, like I got maybe over 100. It was like I was seeing them everywhere. But when I look back, I think I needed those confirmations because of the warfare that was coming at me like along the way. So those feelings of guilt, and that, you know, kind of feeling like I was abandoning my family, those feelings didn't just stop just because I got like that first confirmation, right? And so I also felt really guilty that I just had to keep this thing to myself. And I understood why. Like, you have to be protective over God's plans for your life sometimes. And a lot of times that means like when God asks you to move somewhere, right? When he asks you to do something big, right? Like this, you have to be very careful, because even people that mean well will kind of plant seeds of doubt in your spirit. And so honestly, I kind of, although I did keep it to myself for the most part, I still had my increased 365 sisters that kind of, obviously they saw, you know, me get the prophetic word, you know, and there were more prophetic words to follow up and back up and further encourage me to move to Dallas. But so they had knew, like they saw the journey kind of play out start to finish, right? But other than that, there was one person that I confided in about moving, and literally the first thing she said was something negative, and I was just like, I'm glad I didn't tell nobody else. But yeah, so along with the psychological warfare that, you know, the enemy had sent my way, like trying to make me feel guilty, you know, for keeping it to myself, trying to make it feel like, you know, things would fall apart, that if I left my hometown, there was also financial warfare. All right, so 2023, and in the beginning of 2023, I was working a lot. And I was like, I felt like a hamster on a hamster wheel, because, you know, I was doing my full-time job. I was also, you know, running my tutoring business. And then I was also teaching on the side, right? And so the teaching part was wearing me out, okay? Like wearing me out to the point where like I felt like if I keep doing this and everything else, like I'm not gonna lose it. Like I'm going to lose it. And I was at a point where, you know, I really had to learn to depend on God for my finances, and learn on God, get to know God as Jehovah Jireh, and trust him with my finances instead of relying on myself and my own toiling and my own efforts to pay my bills. So in the beginning, in the beginning of 2023, I had quit my job that was my teaching job. And it was crazy because that job hourly was paying me more than my full-time job was hourly. So it was definitely a faith thing. But one of the things that God let me know in that time was like, you stayed there too long, but now that you finally trust me, I'm going to reward you. So, but it didn't feel like it. The reward hasn't come yet. And that's the beauty of testifying before before everything has come to pass. But what I will say is that I relied on God, in a way that I had never relied on him before. So then by the end of 2023, I was getting kind of antsy, right? Because although God told me that he wanted me to move by the next year, right? So he gave me a deadline. He said, if you need to move, you need to have already been gone by June, the end of June 2024, or else it's not going to be good for you. Like, and I was like, ooh, ooh, okay. So like I took the deadline very seriously, but I just thought that based on how he had moved in other women's lives and orchestrated their moves to Dallas, I just thought he was going to give me like a date, right? And so by the end of 2023, he hadn't given me a date yet. It's holiday season, so I have a little more free time, and I'm just like, okay, well, let me just like, I don't know, like, I just feel like it needs to be, maybe he's waiting for me to make the first move. Maybe I just need to start packing my stuff. So like, being that I had quit one of my many jobs, financially, I was not doing the greatest, but I did ask God, I said, hey, like, if you want me to put my stuff in a storage unit, like, let me find one for $30. I find a storage unit for $30. Okay. So I was like, okay, well, maybe I'm getting closer. Maybe I'm going to leave soon. Like, let me just start packing up my stuff. But the tricky thing is I have to pack in a way that I have to move in stealth because, again, I had only shared that I was moving with my sisters in Increase 365, and that was it. I hadn't even told that one other person at the time. So I'm like, okay, I have to sneak around, unfortunately, and make sure I'm packing when the other person, my roommate, wasn't there. So I'm starting the packing, and I'm just like, okay. And I'm also giving things away, like I'm donating things, I'm putting things in the trash, like things that I know that I would not want to bring all the way to Dallas, Texas. So I put some of the stuff in the storage, and then I kind of rearrange my things so that, if I were to move, if God said move like tomorrow, I would be able to like quickly pack bags for the things that I would need like day to day and then be out. So I did that. So then January comes, January goes. And then now we're in 2024 and the warfare is getting worse. But I still had faith that God was going to move me to Dallas at some point. The crazy part of like this testimony is that, when you're planning on moving, logically, according to the world standards, you want to have, some money saved, you want to have your apartment picked out. And so at the time, actually, let me back up for a second. So I forgot to mention that I had been to Dallas for a second time in December. So remember, the first time I went to Dallas, that's when I was found that I was moving. And then the day after the conference, so on my extra day in Dallas, on my first visit, I started looking up apartments online. I didn't have the coins at the time to go from do tours in person. Cause I was basically using my credit card to pay for my Ubers and things like that. But at the very least, I started making a list of apartments that I was looking to tour at some point. And so there was one place that stuck out to me. I remember when I went to the mall during my visit, there was a really nice mall. And I was like, "Ooh, this place is nice." They had a good mix of stores. It kind of reminded me of, I don't know if you're from Philly or from Pennsylvania, and you might be familiar with King of Prussia Mall, which is a really nice mall. People come from all over to shop there, but it's a nice mix between high and low end, or high streets, luxury stores. It's a good mix of places. So I've been to the mall, and I'm like, this is cute. And so I was just on my Uber ride to the mall, I'm looking around I'm passing by a lot of apartments. So I'm making note of street names and things like that. And so when I Googled, I was looking for apartments that were in the area, near that mall. Right. So, one place, it was a lot of places that I just kind of eliminated based off the fact that the reviews were terrible. A lot of these buildings, they have just bad reviews for many different reasons. But anyway, this one place stuck out to me because it was really nice. It was nice because it had great reviews, and also it was beautiful. It was less than 2 years old, and I was like, ooh, this place looks cool. So anyway, fast forward to December. So remember, December is I'm just feeling unsure. I know that I'm supposed to be moving, but financially I'm not ready. I don't have a date. I don't know if it's gonna happen over the holiday season. I just didn't know. So I had gone back to Dallas for another conference that Raven was hosting, and During that visit, I did tour apartments, and again, God's favor was on it, because one of the girls at the conference was like, you don't Uber, like I will just drive you around. So she drove me around to several different places, and thank you Portia for that. Hey girl. And so it was just beautiful. So by that time I had reached out to an apartment realtor who was giving me a list of apartments to look at based off of my specifications and stuff. And so on the top of his list, guess what apartment was on there? The one that I found months before that had the great reviews, and it was less than 2 years old. So I was like, I'm gonna see this place in person. So that was the very first place that I came to. And so before leaving to go on the apartment tours, because we scheduled maybe like 4 or 5 in that day, I said, God, I need you to make it clear when I find my place. It was a cloudy day, and I said, God, when I get to my place, can you make the sun come out? So the very first apartment that we toured was the one that was on my list, and also the list from the realtor. And so we go in there and we're touring, and the place is beautiful, and we're walking into the area where the pools are, and guess what happened? The sun came out. So I'm looking at other places too, just to keep my options open, but I'm just stuck on this one place. Okay, so that was December. So now we're back to January 2024, and your girl's getting antsy. Now, at this point, I'm still going through the financial warfare and emotional warfare. I'm getting better with the emotional warfare part, because I'm getting so many confirmations. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be. I'm moving where I'm supposed to move. Like, let me just see. I wrote down some things. I went to a work conference which is out of town, and I would just look up. I remember I was sitting down eating my breakfast, and I looked up, and this guy was walking towards me with a sweatshirt that said Dallas on it. I also saw a Texas license plate there. There would be times where I would just walk in the living room where the TV was, and my roommate would be watching football, and they'd be talking about the Dallas Cowboys. That would happen so many times. I would be in random conversation with people, and they would just mention Dallas. I would be scrolling on social media, looking at something that was completely unrelated, and then looking in the comment section, and somebody would just mention Dallas. I have so many screenshots of Dallas, Texas. I've never heard a word so many times over the span of a year. Never. Right? There were so many confirmations, but it was just, God had to work out the way it had to work out. There was no way for me to really prepare, other than prepare spiritually and emotionally for the move, but financially I just wasn't able to do it. And let me explain. So then there was a time in March where I thought that God was giving me a date, and it just didn't happen. So fast forward to June of 2024. So beginning of June, I have to do something really important. So because number one, I was on a lease with my roommate. The lease wasn't supposed to end until August, but 2 months before, you have to give them 60 days notice, essentially, that you have to tell them that you're planning on leaving. So I tell my roommate, I'm I'm not staying here. We're not going to renew. I'm not staying here. I don't know what you're doing, but I'm not staying here. And so I was it was very awkward at first. So I told my building that I was leaving, and I kind of felt bad for my roommate, because I'm what are they going to do? I don't want to leave them high and dry. And so they ended up going to the leasing office a day or two later, after I gave them notice that we weren't going to renew. And they said that they found the leasing office found them apartments in the same building, one floor down. And the day that they could move in was gonna be June 28th. So yeah. Essentially, I was going to be moving a year to the day that I found out I was going to be leaving Dallas, or leaving and moving to Dallas. All right, so again, we're in June 2024. I just told the leasing office for my current apartment at the time that I wasn't going to renew. My roommate found a place downstairs. They were going to be moving in the day that I would be moving to Dallas, right? Or actually the day before, I think the 27th. And so I had to now get my own place, right, in Dallas, Texas. So prior to that, I had just looked at the apartments, but I didn't move forward with the application process. So I applied for the apartment that I'm in now, or for the building that I'm in now, and I applied for a 2-bedroom, but on paper it looks like that I can afford a 2-bedroom, right? And so they're like, well, if you're gonna live here, you need a guarantor. And I just didn't feel led to do that. I know if I would have asked my mom, like, she would be willing to do that type of thing, but I didn't want to be like, hey, surprise, I'm moving to Dallas, Texas. Oh, and I need your help to get an apartment. Like, no, I just didn't feel led to do that. It didn't feel right. So I got denied the first time I applied. And so, I am sharing this with a couple of my sisters, and even with the people you do share with, and people that are Christians and that understand the journey, they even were like, I mean, are you gonna look at other places? Like, you gonna apply somewhere else? And I'm just like, no, like, this is my apartment. So the very next check comes around from my full-time job, and it has my bonus in it. So, and I'm like, all right, let me reapply for a 1-bedroom. And I got approved. And so this is something that is requiring a lot of faith from me, because this approval happened probably a week before I was supposed to leave. I think actually I applied for the 2-bedroom, got denied. And then I bought my one-way ticket right before I applied the second time. So I bought my one-way ticket knowing that I would have to leave on the 28th, and I technically didn't have a place to live yet. So then by the time I applied for the 1-bedroom and got approved, it was maybe a little over a week before I was supposed to leave. And remember, God said, wait until a week before you leave to start telling people. So I'm thinking of people I want to tell. I'm going down my list, and I'm telling people, hey, just want to let you know I'm moving to Dallas. And that was very interesting. Most people were happy for me. Everybody was surprised. Some people were upset. But that's to be expected. I really didn't. I gave less than a week notice. So but the God thing about this is that, my faith had grown so much from the year before, that for the people that were upset with me for not sharing until right before, it didn't bother me at all. But now fast forward to June 28th. We're moving out of our apartment. So that was so taxing, emotionally, physically, because I wasn't in a position to hire movers. And so one of my friends came to help me, thank God. And so that was crazy, because even though I had mentioned I had already packed up a lot of my things, there was still so much left to pack. And also, you just don't realize how much stuff you have until it's time for you to get out of there. So that was happening. And then on top of that, when I got my bonus check, at the time that I was applying for the 1-bedroom apartment, I was also paying down bills, because remember I told you financial warfare started in 2023, but then it carried on to 2024, and there were some bills that were 2 months behind. I don't feel ashamed of saying that. I really think this is gonna bless somebody. But a part of really trusting God with your finances is really how do I want to say this? When you say you trust God with your finances, it's going to come with a test. And God's gonna be looking at you and seeing like, okay, you say you rely on me, right, and not your job. All right, so let's see what happens when your job is not there to provide for you, right? And I still had, my full-time job, but remember, I had income coming from 3 places previously. So when one of those biggest sources went away, when I was quitting, I expected to kind of pick up some slack with the tutoring. It just didn't happen that way. So anyway, so I'm moving. I have my plane tickets. I didn't have the money to move in, right? I had maybe $400. I needed like $3,000. Yeah. So I'm getting on a plane, and I'm just praying to God. Like, actually, before I even got on the plane, like, I tried to take matters in my own hands and like apply for a payday loan. I probably did that like 3 or 4 times. I tried to apply once. And again, because several of my bills were behind at that point, even after me catching up with the bonus check, right? We're getting down to the wire. I don't have the money to move into this apartment. I'm scheduled to get on the plane to Dallas and move into my apartment on June 28th, right? Didn't happen that way. So before I even get on the plane, I'm like, I don't even know like where this money's gonna come from. Like, should I just apply for like a payday loan? Like, what should I do? And I'm trying to apply for a loan, but because, the financial warfare had, resulted in my credit dropping, I couldn't get a loan. So like, I probably applied for like 2 and like got denied. I was just like, I just was crying, but I just didn't know like what was going to happen. I got on a plane with $400. And so actually right before I got on the plane, I felt led to ask for help. So I went to the Increase 365 sisters and I let them know what was going on. I said, hey, like I'm moving to Dallas today. I don't have the money. I don't really know what to do. I feel led to ask for help. And that was really huge for me because like I am coming from like, I'm independent. Like I can do this myself. I don't ask for help. Like that's the kind of person I was, right? And also I just have a lot of trauma when it comes to like friendships, my female friendships. A lot of them have ended with me like really seeing the person's heart as being like very envious and jealous. And so, I just had a hard time really like trusting my female friends, I should say. So anyway, so I put that to the side, put my pride to the side, and I asked for help. Not really expecting anything. I said, here's my Cashapp. If you feel like the sow, great. If you don't feel like the sow, you just want to pray, that's fine too. Like I was appreciative, like for anything at that point. So I get on the plane. I'm like, Lord, let's just let the money be there. Let the money be there by the time I land. So I get on the plane. I land in Dallas. I'm like, before I even get to the baggage claim, I'm like, okay, let me just check my phone. Let me check my Cash App. And some women did so, and I was so grateful, but it wasn't nearly enough. So I was just like in the airport crying. So this is now like afternoon time. I want to say it's like 1 p.m. I'm stuck in the airport because I really don't know what to do. I can't head to the apartment and move in because I don't have the money. And also, I forgot to mention that I needed a cashier's check to move in. So I don't know if you're familiar with a cashier's check. I didn't know at the time. I thought it was just something you can go get, like a money order. But I didn't know that you had to get a cashier's check from a bank branch where you have an account, where you've been an account holder for like at least 30 days. I didn't know, right? So, of course, because I didn't know, I just waited to the last minute and thought, like, you just go get a cashier's check. Like, you go get a money order. And so I didn't have the money. I didn't have a cashier's check. So, like, I am now like, okay, well, let me just at least, like, see if I can, like, work something out with the leasing office. So I called lease, or actually so that's what I think. I'm getting my timeline mixed up because I know I landed. It was very emotional. I was crying. I was receiving like my money from my sisters, and like it was coming, but it wasn't like enough. So like I'm like, okay, let me at least try to speak to the leasing office and see like if they'll let me move in with a partial payment, and also if they'll let me pay with something that's not a cashier's check. So they're like, no and no. So yeah, your girl was salty. And I'm still in the airport, like tearing up every 5 minutes, and then I'm even still applying for more payday loans. And still getting denied for like, I probably apply for a total of 4. Again, this part was like me just like not being led by God. This is just like God letting me like fall on my face, because like this just was not his part of it. I mean, maybe it was part of his plan for him, for me to like, apply and get denied, because he needed to get the full glory out of this. None of this had anything to do with what I was doing in my own strength. By this time it's like 4:15, and so I'm like, all right, well, whatever happens, I need to like, I can't like spend the night. And I just wanted to at least head in that direction. Like maybe God is like waiting for me to move in faith. Like maybe I just need to start heading there. So I start heading to the apartment in an Uber. And because they had stopped replying to my emails, I called them. So I was speaking on the phone with someone in the leasing office, and I'm kind of explaining the situation, like, hey, like, just trying to work something out. Like, I don't have the full money, and I don't have a cashier's check. I really don't know what to do. I didn't realize like the cashier's check was a whole like process, blah, blah, blah. And so the person is kind of like giving me a hard time. And I'm just like, all right, well, I don't know. Like, we just weren't coming to a resolution. I'll put it that way. So although the Uber was destination was the apartment, I actually ended up rerouting to a hotel that was around the corner from it, because at that point I was frustrated. I was like trying not to burst into tears. I really just wanted to take a nap. I was miserable. Okay. So I found a hotel. I checked into the hotel because I was just like, whatever happens, this seems like it's not going to get resolved tonight, at least with the leasing office. So let me just go to sleep. Okay. So I check in the hotel, and then meanwhile, the ladies from Increase 365 they keep sewing into me. So I check into the hotel because I really just need to take a nap and cry and all the things. And so I checked into the hotel, and then meanwhile, the ladies are praying over me, and they are sewing into me still. So I go to sleep. I wake up, and I have all the money that I'm gonna need to move into the apartment. Like, it's just very humbling. Like, at the time I was like boohoo ugly crying, because no one has ever come through like that for me. Outside of like my immediate family, like none of my friends have ever come through like that for me. And so I was just completely blessed. I don't even know what else to say other than like, I just felt so incredibly blessed. So I had all the money that I was going to need by the end of the night on Friday. And so my plan for the next day was to just go, because my hotel was again around the corner from the apartment. I was going to walk over there and then talk to someone from the leasing office in person to see like, is there another way I can pay? I have the money now. Let me just pay. Like, can I just like take my money? So and so I go visit the next day, and then the guy says, oh yeah, you can just use your credit card, blah blah blah. And then he's like, oh, do you want to see your apartment? And I'm like, yes, I do. So he gave me the key, and then I was able to look around, and God is good. God is good. That's all I can say. So then, so that's how I moved in, I didn't move in that next day. I moved in on the Monday. So I moved in on July 1st. So when the lady sewed into me, they ended up having enough money left over to stay in the hotel on the 2 nights leading up to me moving in. And so that is how God moved me to Dallas, Texas. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. If you feel led to sell, I'm going to leave my Cash App down there. I am in my apartment now. I ain't got no furnitures. But I'm incredibly blessed. God is amazing. and I hope you have a beautiful day.